called the City of Mount Vernon City Council Study Session for December 15, 2021 to order. The time is now 7:12. Apologize for being a little bit late, but we had some good discussion going on in committee time. First up, agenda item is to reappoint a planning commission member. I don't see Chris. So because he's not in the room yet, I'm going to go ahead and introduce this item. This is an item before council to confirm my reappointment of Andrew Vanderstoep to the Planning Commission. Andrew Vanderstoep was appointed to the Planning Commission in September of 2021 to fill a vacant position with a term expiring on December 31st of 2021. The reappointment is for a full term, beginning January 1st of 2022 and concluding December 31st of 2025. I believe that attached to your memo is Andrew's original application. Wonderful young person with a great perspective. So I present this for you and request that you would help confirm Andrew to the Planning Commission.
I would move that we ratify the mayor's appointment of Andrew to the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion by Mark and a second by Mary. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries, thank you. All right, item B is to reappoint Arts Commission members. Jennifer Berner, our Parks Enrichment Director, is here. Jennifer?
Good evening, Council. So we are here this evening. Staff is requesting council approval for the reappointment of Susan Wells Hall, Kathleen Roche Zuko, and Leanne Russ. They are all current members on our Arts Commission and are seeking reappointment for a 3-year term. Attached with your memo is their applications. They're all active members on our Arts Commission currently, and I would recommend reappointing them.
Okay. Any questions for Jennifer on these items?
I would make a move to have the mayor reappoint Susan Wells Hall, Kathleen Roche Zuko, I hope I'm not saying that bad, and Leanne Russ to the Arts Commission.
Second. Thank you. Motion by Mary and a second by Iris. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. And thank you, council, so I can get those folks back on the job. Appreciate it. Item C tonight is the consideration of a resolution. This is regarding the subject of fully contained communities. And I know Rebecca put together the memo, but I might ask her to just kind of come up before we toss this over to Councilmember Hudson. And I just wanted to let council know that normally, we would have these discussions in a committee setting, but we've got really full committees right now, and I thought that you may want to have just a conversation around this, so we put it on our study session tonight. Definitely do not expect any action. There's no obligation. However, staff did prepare a draft memo, draft resolution, and with that, I think I'll turn it over to Councilmember Hudson, who asked if this could be brought forward, and then Rebecca's here as staff to answer any questions that council may have as well. So,
Thank you, Mayor. Hopefully my fellow council have been able to look at the resolution that was drafted and put together, basically expressing concern to the motion moving forward from the county regarding FCCs. I think that just for personally, I believe that the county has not followed the process that they put in place with the, I'm missing the word, framework that was
The
put in
framework
place,
agreement.
correct? Okay. So the framework says that basically this is supposed to go before a steering committee before anything is even considered. And they have basically, well, in my opinion, they've leapfrogged over that. That critical step. So that is part of the reason that I asked for this to come before the council for discussion this evening. So I would certainly open it up for discussion. Anybody have a question?
I guess my question is, and I don't know whether, I'm not saying I'm for them or against them. It seems to me, and I talked to Commissioner Browning earlier today, and he indicated that the intention was just to have a discussion at the county level, and to decide whether or not this is something that the county should even consider in the future in their 20-year plan. So I'm a little, I've been trying to gather information from our local leaders, and from trying to dig up some stuff from some of the counties that have already put them in place. Fortunately, I didn't have time to read it all today. So I still have some questions on the wisdom as far as passing a resolution against for the way I'm seeing it right now is that we'd be passing a resolution against even having a discussion or a look at it. For me, I'd like to have a little more time to do a little more investigation and make sure that what we're passing isn't shutting down any kind of work plan that may actually be beneficial in the future. I mean, and we've seen, Rebecca showed some examples, I watched your video, some examples of some really bad FCCs. I don't know if there's any examples of good ones or not, and how that might actually be beneficial to the community. So that's my reservation, is maybe just, I need a little more education before I want to take a vote on it.
Yeah. I guess I think that they're putting the cart before the horse is the way I look at it, and maybe I'm looking at it incorrectly, and I would certainly be willing to be schooled or educated if I'm looking at it incorrectly. But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah,
I
and I don't know whether this is the case or not, but I would look at it from the standpoint of council, once a year we docket things on our work plan. And I look at it from the standpoint, we never know what the outcome of that docketing is gonna be until we go through some of the work and do some of the studying. As a council member, if we docketed an item, I'd be kind of offended if the county passed a resolution saying, no, we don't want you to discuss this, without having any other information other than know that we had docketed it.
Okay, and I hear what you're saying again, but, I don't mean to use that. We would hope that our staff would tell us, this is how you need to do this is the proper order in which you need to do this, without going around or circumventing framework that we signed on to. So that's where my problem is that I feel like they are going about it in the most incorrect way. They haven't followed their own guidelines that they and the city signed on to, and that's probably where I have a problem, is that they are not following their own laws and policy.
So the 2 cents that I could possibly add to the conversation here is that I think it was at some point last week that we heard a substantial amount from the community, right? And I think it's very important that you feel the pulse of the community. If you want to go ahead and make an accurate decision, it can be pretty accurate if you listen to the pulse of the community. And based on the feedback that I saw last week, the general pulse of the community, it appears to be that they are certainly not aligned with seeing FCCs anywhere near around this community or the other municipalities in Skagit County. So I'm just bringing that into mind because I know it's still fresh in my mind, and this is feedback that we all saw just last week.
One to that, I would say that we heard from a significant number of people, maybe 15 or 20 people. We represent 36,000 people in the city of Mount Vernon. So there's a small vocal group right now that is absolutely dead set against having any discussions on that. I appreciate their passion because I've been there. But that's not a majority or even a percentage of the population of Mount Vernon that we actually represent. So while I appreciate the passion that the group has put forward, for me to pass a resolution at this point in time, I just need to do some more study and some more investigation.
Melissa, were you saying?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm not gonna address whether the county leapfrogged over the framework agreement. And I grew up in the Skagit Golf and Country Club, and so that was the GMA. I believe that's considered an FCC. But what I think that the county has done they're doing a study, and it's not paid through taxpayer dollars. And some of we could look like some Amish Heights. And they're comparing us, they're using other FCCs. And I look at all of them, and to me, I just say, well, I don't think we want that in our community. Folks that live down there are traveling up here. I don't like being compared to King County. Having said that, what the county has done is we are now having a dialogue about the future of our county and the future of what housing looks like. And so I honestly think that by the time this EIS is done, it's going to show us what we don't want in our county. And so whether that was an intended or unintended consequence of that, that's where I am. I respect that Mark is not ready yet, and so I don't necessarily have I don't necessarily feel we have to pass this tonight, but we are having a very important conversation about the direction of this county for decades to come, and I think it's very, very important.
And I'll just add to what Councilmember Beaton said, is that I think the county needs to include the cities in these discussions. And that we need to look, if there's a need, we need to look at expanding our urban growth areas. That's all part of growth management, but unfortunately so are the FCCs. They're part of the growth management program. If we're serious about having some discussions, I'd like to see us come to the table with them and look at a multitude of different prospects for additional housing.
Other input? Richard?
I'll go next. So my conversations with many folks in the community, I think the majority of folks don't want to see FCCs. And other people may have different opinions. I'm personally, as an environmentalist, I don't think I'm with Melissa. I'm not sure that the study's going to come out in favor of how we could do this appropriately and protect our farmlands and our natural resources.
And that was not my intent. My intent was, we're gonna get this EIS and it's gonna show us that we don't want this in our community. That's what I meant by that statement.
I'm gonna wait and see how that comes. But I think if we want to influence the county, it might be better to sit down and talk with them about what they're doing and why they're doing it, and have that dialogue. And it's really important that we do. There's a lot of pressure around housing in the community. And so there's some language in the GMA about regional coordination, and I think we can always improve around that. So I would support the resolution, but not today.
And I'll add, I spoke earlier about talking with Commissioner Browning. I also call into Commissioner Janicki. My understanding is she's been out of town on a conference, so I expect to be able to have a conversation with her too, just so I can be better enlightened on what their thoughts are.
I think I could add just for some information as you consider action or not action. Back to how the process is set up, and according to the framework agreement, which was way back, I think early 2000s, there was a purposeful growth management steering committee set up to advise the county commissioners, and that consists of the mayors and the cities and the towns. We actually just had a GMA steering committee today. So the process is when allocations come out for population growth and when we're all preparing for our comprehensive plan work, that steering committee is part of kind of binding decisions on how populations are allocated, so that then every jurisdiction knows what to plan for. So that's a process there. Those jurisdictions also, the GMA steering committee also approves recommendations for the countywide planning policies which are required. So those are those overall, policies, and the current overall policy does not allow them, right? So as you all know, when we change our comprehensive plan, it goes through a docketed process. It doesn't mean that you can't have conversations about what you'd want to see in a more informal setting, like committee, just like next door that we had. All of that can be had. It doesn't have to go through a formal legal docketing process. Now, so but the county has formally legally docketed that process. So it's a little bit different at this point because of that step that was taken. That was docketed after, I want to say 4, if not 5, rejections from the GMA steering committee over the last 10 years, rejections of fully contained communities. So I think that's where it's just gotten confusing. It's gotten confusing on the process, the framework that needs to be adhered to, and then the fear about it being legally docketed now, and what the county must go through to even look at changes. So it's gotten just kind of, got a little messy on, that process. So as you consider the resolution and take some time to digest it, staff tried to incorporate that full concept story for you so that you can see and why it would be something that the city could do to simply oppose moving forward on it. So I'm hoping that explains it a little bit, and then it explains it also to the public on what you would be considering. And then one last thing I'll throw in there is I know the city of Cedar Woolley is going to be discussing the same type of resolution on January 5th. And then if they were to take action, it would be January 12th. Don't know if they're going to take action or not, but their council is wanting to have a conversation just like you are. So I hope that helps with some more information.
So what I would do is because I still have some questions that I would like to have answered before I'm ready to vote on it, I would like to move that we table this. The resolution, as I read the resolution, I think it's very well written. I just want to make sure we're not damaging a relationship, I guess is a better way, is a good way to say it. So I would move that we table this until the first meeting in January.
I will second that.
Okay. So there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. We will, maybe I'll ask council, would you like that in a committee setting? Because we could plan further out to have it in a committee discussion before adding it to an action agenda? Or would you like it to be?
So normally on our council meetings, we'll have a committee meeting prior to.
Correct, yeah.
I would say let's have a committee meeting. We can have some discussions. If there's any changes, we can make those changes during the council meeting.
Okay.
I mean, if there's an A that we wanted to strike out or something, we could always do that.
Okay.
For me, I'll have had plenty of time to
Okay.
do my due diligence. And, if we want to act on it, we certainly can, the same day as the committee meeting.
Okay.
I would like for sure to be able to have public comment on that. If that's important, I think we need to have public comment on this.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is we'll have it on the committee agenda item, but we will also have it on the city council meeting so that you can choose to take action if you would want to, but we could also have a public hearing
Yes.
at the time.
Yes.
Does that sound good? Okay, excellent, thank you. All right, then moving on, item D, the main event of the night that we're excited about, sorry, is our update from our Library Commons project. I want to thank folks that came out tonight to share in our excitement in welcoming Julie Blazik from HKP Architects, who has been working on our design and engineering. We're reaching a milestone now, and so I'm going to turn it over to Julie to give an update on the progress, and then we'll come back with a little bit more information that I've been working on too. So, Julie.
Good evening, council and mayor. Can everyone hear me okay? All right, well, we're very excited to be back.
Julie?
Yes.
If you don't mind, if you could take off your mask, that would be okay, because that way then folks that are
I would
watching-
love that if
Okay.
that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Much better. We're thrilled to be back to present where we are in our process of design on the Library Commons, to present that to you and to the community at large. We've been working away, and you'll be able to see tonight where we are in the design and where we're headed. So tonight, I'm going to go over these 5 areas, kind of take just a quick look back at our overarching goals and opportunities for the project, talk a little bit about where we are in the schedule, give you a pretty comprehensive look at what the building looks like, and take some walkthroughs, a quick update on the cost estimate, and then just a reminder of the monthly communications that we have available through the city's website. So as a design team and for the city, we're always constantly reminding ourselves of what we're trying to accomplish with this project. So really kind of keeping a key focus on those things that are really important to us as we go through. And some real incredible opportunities. This will be the first Passive House library and conference center on the West Coast. There's a Carnegie Library in Pittsburgh that beat us to the first of Passive House in the US. But for those that don't know what Passive House is about, it's really about a high performance building. And because Washington State is already a leader in energy code, our code here is about 30 to 40% better than most states in the country. So this building is going to be at least 30% more than that. So if you look across the country, it's about 60 to 70% more energy efficient than most buildings that are being built in the country. And along with that, we get better indoor air quality, we get better thermal comfort, there will be better acoustics in the building, and there'll be long-time durability improvement. It'll also be the largest EV charging station on the I-5 corridor. When it opens, it will have 76 EV charging stations, and it has the capacity to have 200 at full capacity, plus some electric bike charging stations. We're working hard to reduce our carbon footprint, so we're looking at all of the materials that we're using and trying to look at carbon reductions, and our target is 30%, and we think we're going to make 40%, which I have to say is pretty incredible for a mostly concrete building. So we're working really hard on the concrete portions of it, but there's also a lot of other opportunities, and you'll see that as the design moves forward in some of the material choices. It's an all-electric building, so clean energy, not relying on fossil fuels. And it has currently 116 kW on-site solar array, which will power about 18% of the building's energy load. It's also going to be a very convenient transportation hub, and we've been meeting with Skagit Transit, turning it into the I-5 flyer stop, so commuters can get on and off the bus easily. Right now, the Skagit station is so heavily trafficked that they can't make that flyer stop work very fast. So this will give them an opportunity to come through, pick up people at the building, get back on I-5, and get people where they need to go, and attract people to come and park in the downtown. Mostly, it's about celebrating our community, and there's so much about this building I think that's really going to be wonderful for everyone to enjoy over the next generations in learning and exploring, bringing people into our downtown, being a place for people to meet and greet, and just a kind of an economic driver for the downtown. So we're thrilled to be part of this important project. This might be a little hard to see at this scale, but let's see if I have a pointer here that works. There we go. So the line represents where we are right now. We are at the end of what's called design development. And so there's 3 major phases in design. The first one was schematic design, which was our first 3 months. That's where we're really kind of looking at options. We're studying different floor plan arrangements. We're looking at different materials, throwing out ideas, and sort of trying to come together on what is going to function the best and what's the best plan layout. Once we get to the end of that phase and we sort of have a good direction on the plan, this design development phase is really about refining that plan, refining all the materials and systems, and really understanding the scope and getting all of the materials and systems quantified, is the word I'm searching for, so that we can get another round of accurate cost estimating. So the next phase, contract documents, is really where we sort of put our heads down and do all of the detail drawing. It's really about getting bid-ready drawings together. So we've made all the major decisions. We'll still be tweaking things as we go, but we have a good direction in terms of how we want to execute the plans and get them ready for permitting. So that next phase will be about 4 months long, and we'll be back to you in March or April, looking for approval for those bids or for those drawings to go out to bid. Any questions on the schedule while I'm on this slide? Okay. So we're going to start kind of at the ground level. This is an overall plan of the building and just starts to show the landscaping that is surrounding the building. Street trees on Kincaid, 2nd and 3rd, and we've got planned developments for each of the kind of main entrances to the building, and have developed a landscape palette with the Swift Company, who is our landscape architect. And these plans and plant palettes have been reviewed with parks and enrichment staff, as well as the library staff. There's also a small landscape area up on the 2nd floor terrace, which you'll see in some of the other renderings tonight. It's a place on the east side of the building with views out towards Baker and down south. And it'll have a small planting area up there, but another place to take children up for educational programming or for visitors to gather and for people to meet. This is just another diagram that shows how we've organized the building around the 3 main entry points, which are kind of historical circulation patterns in our downtown. And we've got the library taking up most of the western portion of the building, circulation going down through. The restrooms, if you can see my pointer, are in the middle core here of the building. And then the community center and kitchen is down in this corner, occupy most of the east side with the circulation spines connecting the two. In the library portion of the building, we've got the main collections here. We've got periodicals in this corner, some group study rooms. There's a little sort of social area as you enter with little bistro tables and chairs. This will be these are all low stacks, so there's good visibility, and you'll see this in the renderings in a minute, with some recent picks, staff picks and holds, and then the computer technology area here. Across from that is the circulation desk, and this is sort of back of house staff and office workrooms. Continuing on, we have young adults in this area, youth services, so a nice big children's library that has their own circulation, and an area for the friends to sell books and have some storage out in the circulation space. On the east side, for the commons area, we have a divisible large room, so there's 2 rooms that would hold seated about 90 to 100 people each, and when opened together, 200 people banquet style seating, and that can overflow into this commons area for another 40 to 50 people. The kitchen is down in this corner, as I mentioned, to serve those banquet rooms, and also to serve this larger conference room that would be available for community use. There's AV planned throughout the library, and our AV consultant has reviewed those plans with library staff and city staff. So we have a good handle on outfitting these rooms and some of the other small meeting spaces with the technology that they need to be successful. We've also reviewed the kitchen with the Culinary Arts Department up at the college, as well as a couple local caterers and local Meals on Wheels programs to make sure it's going to be efficient and work for them and their needs. And as I mentioned, we've talked to Skagit Transit, and we were also asked whether or not we'd be open to working with some UW engineering students from civil engineering mostly about using this project as part of their capstone program. So they may be involved in looking at what we've designed and designing some things around transportation and civil engineering, and we're more than welcome to do that. I think it'd be really fantastic. Lots of other things, but those were just a few highlights.
I'm going to give a little shout out to Tanya Buell at the WashDOT Innovations office. I had cold called her about a year ago about the project, and so she was looking for a project that she could connect, and so the professor at UW decided this would be really cool for his students, and we're super excited about their involvement.
Yeah, we've met once, and we're excited for them to come back with what they think might work. Just a very quick snapshot of the garage. Right now we're at 277 spaces. We are talking about having a generator added to the project, so that may take up 2 spaces because there's nowhere else on site to put a generator. So we'd be looking at just 275. Right now we have 3 bike charging stations, but we'd like to up that to include maybe 8 to 10, and then there'd be future capacity as well. And as I mentioned, when the building opens, there'll be 38 dual-headed EV chargers, so 76 cars. And then the future capacity to add another 124 cars for a total of 200 EV charging stations. And those are a mix of long-term and mid-range charging. So from the 8-hour overnight for people who might have homes downtown that could have a parking permit, maybe charge overnight, to the shorter 2 to 3 hour charging. So I'm going to run through a few renderings and then we'll get to the walkthroughs, but just to orient folks, this is the northeast corner of the building across from the courthouse, and it's one of the main entries to the building, and tried to break down the scale on this side since it is a large building, but trying to recognize it's a place on the corner. This is the other side, the northwest corner, and it's the main library entrance and another stair tower there. We've kept the stairs and elevators outside the building, so if you park in the parking garage, you can come down the stairs and go straight to the stores and shops, or you can go into the library, so you don't have to go through the library or the community center to get up and through the parking. This is the southeast corner of the building, and you'll see the solar array is on most of the southern elevation. It's providing sun shading as well as energy production, and then we do have some solar panels on the top as well that you'll see. But this also shows you the roof terrace above the kitchen and community center where people can come and gather. And then this is the southwest corner as you're approaching from 2nd Street. It's a snapshot of the library entrance and the stairs and elevator to the parking garage. And this is a snapshot of the other entrance further along on Kincaid, the main entrance to the Commons, actually looking into the Commons area here, and this, the community meeting room, and the lobby is over here. This is a view down Kincaid Street, and there is additional landscaping in these little nooks here too that we don't quite have on the model yet, but trying to add as much greenery as we can, even though we don't have a lot of space. This is a view looking into the entry to the parking garage and to the south plaza. There's a an area outside the south for some additional bike racks and gathering. And then you enter the garage from this south side off of Third. This is that same South Plaza area, and what we have is just a rendering of a possible art screen. Would be a gate that would retract up so that all of this space could be open to the public, or this about half of the space could be closed down and used as an indoor-outdoor space. Might have a coffee vendor or something out there. You could go grab a bite to eat. But you have the ability to kind of manage that space however you'd like to. Quick shot in the parking garage itself, and we're working to develop the graphics and signage program, so it's really clear and easy and feels very safe and bright. It's another shot up on the roof terrace. And the screening that we're showing now in the parking garage is actually terracotta square tubes. So it's a product that's less carbon intensive than metal, and it will have kind of a brick feeling to it and quality to it, and have a long lasting and very durable finish. This is a snapshot up on the 4th floor roof terrace. There's a small area that overlooks the Skagit River, where you can meet people here, and we've got a potential for some art panels that sort of help separate the parking from this little overlook. Some interior renderings. This is the kind of coming into the main library space. So as I mentioned, we have low stacks here, so it's easy for staff and visitors to see where everything is, and the circulation. We're trying to make as clean and easy to use as possible. This is around the circulation desk, so easy for staff to see and get out and help patrons, especially at the technology center, if anyone needs assistance there. And then their back of house is here. And we've set up these rooms so really you kind of have a view through design review comment, be able to kind of see through these spaces as you go through the building. This is from within the circulation desk area back out, looking at that technology center and the main entrance to the library. We do have some very large shear walls because this is a parking garage. It's holding up those upper stories. So we do have a few of those, and we're trying to punch openings in them where we can, so there's still some visibility through for staff. This is the main collections. So we've got low and tall stacks, and the periodicals are back in this corner. And this is showing the group rooms. So they're very visible, easy to find, and easy for staff to guide people to. This is a snapshot in the Young Adults Center. We've got a gaming station. We've got kind of a maker space in the back, and then lots of places for young adults to hang out and meet. And this is right outside that space in the main circulation spine. This is part of the youth services with their circulation space desk in the middle. There's a couple exits from this as well. The main entry is from the library proper, but there are other exits, and they could be used as entries to this. So there's different ways to control coming in and out of youth services. And this is in that same space, just looking back towards the main library space. This is the Friends area. So there's some bookcases, custom shelving here to have books for sale, and kind of a nice place to look and hang out, maybe before a meeting, see what's there for sale. And then this is around the corner, looking back into the common space. This space is set up with some movable furniture. It's not movable in the sense that everybody can move it around, but it can be moved for events. So if there's something happening in the large meeting spaces, this could be a buffet area, it could be drinks, it could be a place where information is, or it can be pushed out of the way and tables and chairs set up. So we want to make this space as flexible as possible. And what you see here is the large group room with the door open. So this rendering shows the door closed. It's glazed so you can see in, and it retracts up into the ceiling. You can see beyond here, there's also an acoustic wall that separates the two rooms, and that goes up into the ceiling. So you can open the space up completely and overflow into the main hallway, or have it shut, and there's two side doors to let people in, and then there's also the doors around from the kitchen. So I'm gonna roll through some renderings here. Hopefully they won't make anyone seasick. They can from time to time. We've got one of the exterior, one of the parking garage, and one of the interiors. So I'll just let this roll, and if it gets unruly, I'll stop it. But just wanted to give people a chance to take a look as we kind of fly around the building. These, what we're calling the marquees, the large glass in front of the entries, we see as an opportunity to have some graphic art patterning on those. So we're studying that to really bring those to life. And then you can sort of see the terracotta fins. The two little bump outs that you see that are slightly different relate to what's happening across the street at the courthouse. And it affords some modulation along that long elevation. And so as it comes around, you can see that little lookout space up on the 4th floor, and really trying to make the circulation visible. We have a lighting scheme so that these are very well lit. They feel very safe. There aren't any hiding spots, things like that. So working really hard to make sure that it's a really wonderful experience for everyone during the day and into the evening. We do have 2 book drops. One was at that front entry there, and there's also another book drop off the alley, so people can drive through the alley and drop books off. And we have some waste and recycling area in the back to deal with all the things we have to deal with. And kind of a vehicle loading and unloading area for the kitchen. There's also a paratransit stop scheduled in the alley, so they can drop patrons off or pick them up in the alley, and there'll be special designated patterning on the concrete to let people know that they can cross safely, as well as lots of safety around the entry to the parking garage. Got some sunshades on the south and along this west elevation. That's really the only place that we need a lot of solar shading. Trying to get as much light in on this north elevation as possible. We'll take a little walk inside the building, starting from the library entrance. There'll be a little bit of an opportunity to see how the stormwater is handled in that little garden area outside the entry. And again, the main focus is to make sure it's really clear how the building is organized so people can find their way around easily. And find opportunities to have different kinds of spaces for different people's needs, whether they want to sit quietly and read or get together as a group. And there'll be lots of opportunities for different kinds of spaces. This is back in the periodicals corner, so quiet reading space. And then coming up on the group rooms, there are 3 group rooms in this corner. To the left also is a community resource area, so there'll be information and kind of a post board there, as well as the book drop that's next to that entry. space under the drop ceiling here is the technology center, so computers, copier. There's acoustical walls to keep the noise down, acoustical ceilings. We have an acoustician on the team that's helped us study and model all that. This is the young adults. And I should mention too, most of the all of the furniture right now are just placeholders, so we're working with vendors to put together FF&E packages, so what's there is just kind of showing a suggestion of what kind of furniture might be in these spaces, but they're not final. Same with the light fixtures, and we've, actually right now we do have light fixtures picked, but they're not in our model yet. And this is the youth services, which is quite a bit larger than it is today, and will be very flexible in order to accommodate the space over time. It has a family restroom, and there is a prep room, kind of project room between the youth services and young adults for staff to put together projects and roll them out to either space. And then this again is the Friends area, which does have a separate storage room across the hall, and it's across from the restrooms. Main commons area, and the large community group rooms. And last one is through the garage. This will also have an overhead door, and all of the stair towers have gates that can be rolled down at certain times of the night, so you have flexibility to control those vertical towers at whatever hours you want to, and close the garage off and have keypad access. People can always get out in an emergency, but you can control the access in. So this is looking at the vertical transportation right outside what's kind of above the library entrance. So again, trying to keep them clean and light filled. What's not showing on this model now is we are painting the ceilings in between the beams all white. I think that was on the renderings, but not quite in this model. So it'll add a bit of brightness to the garage floors and relieve a little bit of the concrete. You can see the charging stations and some of the suggested graphics. There'll be wayfinding on just about, I think, every other beam, so you can easily find your way through, remember what floor you're on. And the two towers in each corner of the building help to orient you as well. They're easy to see in the brick versus the concrete. And then out to the roof terrace. This also can be screened off if necessary, so have ways to manage it if you like. And the
Plantings
bike,
would include vines too.
yes,
The
exactly.
vines would grow.
Thank you. Yeah, the little planter area will have vines that will grow up on that trellis, and that trellis is an opportunity for some artwork as well. Can't put too many cars in our model or it will crash, and the same with books, so there's no books on the shelves. We do have a bit of mechanical in a couple of the corners, and then we're using the quarters for the electric bike charging stations, a few bike lockers, and some additional bike racks. And then if you get up onto the top floor, you can see the additional solar panels in the middle, which actually help provide some shade to some of those upper deck cars. There's a couple bike lockers there. And the elevator at the east side is a gurney size, which is code required. But both of them are big enough to take bikes up, so they'll be easy to take a bike, bring a bike on the back of your car and take it down and go for a bike ride. Get some great views of not only the mountains to the east, but back towards the river. So, back to budget. I'll shift on my, back to reality. This is the budget numbers and the breakdown that we presented at schematic design, and these are the numbers that we're still tracking. It breaks down the library, the commons, and the parking, and these are project costs, so that's hard costs and soft costs, and we're tracking both budgets. As we've moved along, some things have moved from the construction budget to the soft cost, things that Chris and his department might purchase because they can get a contract price for it. So we're pushing and pulling things back and forth. But in terms of the construction costs, we're running around $300 a square foot on the building right now, and then soft costs above that. So we'll be working hard to maintain that budget. We have added the generator set that I mentioned, so that wasn't in this original budget. We added concrete in the alley because we felt like the improvements to the downtown alleys in concrete, colored concrete, have been so wonderful, and to not do it there just seemed like a lost opportunity. And there are a couple of utility costs that we can't confirm yet. One in particular would be the fire line. Our engineers believe it can be a 6-inch line, but if we're on the cusp and the calculations come back that it has to be an 8-inch line, that will be a significant cost increase. So we are carrying contingencies, and there's just a lot that we'll have to be tracking as we move forward, and try to stick to the budget that we have right now. And lastly, just a reminder that we are producing monthly updates to try to feature the design progress and significant and interesting things about the project as we go along. Those are all available on the city's website in both English and Spanish. So I welcome all to go check those out. We try to get them up in a timely fashion, but sometimes we're working on the building. But they're there, and if people have questions, they can always call the city and ask. Any questions before the mayor presents her information?
Any questions about the process for Julie, or anything you'd like to know? It just keeps getting more detailed as we get into it, which is the process, so.
Yeah, it's very
Okay.
exciting. What did you find on the stormwater scenario?
So we have, we're close enough to the outfall of the Skagit that we don't have to deal with detaining the water, but we do have to treat it. So under the sidewalk system is a series of soil cell stormwater treatment that help to basically treat that. We do have an oil water separator for the garage components before it goes into that. So we're treating everything on site. And we also have those soil cells help the street trees in that area have a little extra growth area so they don't cause root problems. So underground they have more capacity to grow, and picking the right trees and providing those soil cells is kind of doing two things at the same time.
And the second question, the foundation, you had showed us I think it's sort of a constructed foundation you talked about.
Yes, so it's a risk category 3 building, which is the second lowest. Risk category 4 is for hospitals and emergency shelters and 911 centers, anything that you absolutely can't have go out. So it's very high in terms of its classification. And you can approach that two different ways. You can kind of beef up your building, or you can beef up the land that you're on. So what we're doing is called ground improvements. And so they'll be drilling down and replacing about 45 feet deep with stone columns. So basically filling in bad dirt with good rock, and creating a really stable foundation for the building to sit on, so that we don't have to do as much in the building. So it will create a much more uniform and much more, at a loss for words, reliable foundation system.
Any other questions for Julie? All right, if there's anything specific that you're really curious about, and I thought of Mary, that you might want to see more details on the landscape plan.
Yes.
Just let me know, we can get you those sections, unless you would really like the, 600-page book, which is fine too, but we can
The
send
pretty
you
pictures.
what you're interested in, so.
And in the community rooms also, are we going to have access to the screens and all that kind of things for the
Yes.
events?
Yeah, they'll have controls at the walls, and then the equipment is locked behind doors, so those can be managed, but people who rent the rooms will have full control of the audio, visual, sound, and whatnot, so absolutely.
And that was something that we discussed, because probably just what you're thinking, we want this to be really usable in our new world, post-COVID, but have the highest that we can get technological now, because, it'll last for a while, but it changes. So for instance, in the community room, and Julie's gonna correct me if I'm wrong, there's 2 different screens so that it can accommodate people comfortably seeing something that's on the screen, but it also is connected for Zoom participants and things that can be worked really well, technology-wise, so we're excited about that too. So, yeah. Thank you. Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. Julie, thank you so much. And then I'll ask Peter, if he doesn't mind, he'll pull up some of the slides that I had to share, just to kind of update on work that I'm doing from my office. Thank you. All right, so it's always fun to update the latest rendering as more details come through, and so the latest one here is, of course, what Julie shared with the design development, where we're at in 2021. Next slide. So the most recent development, and this just came out Monday about noon, is not only did the governor add this to his proposed supplemental budget, which details will hit the news tomorrow, but he named our project in his climate strategy policy brief and action plan for 2022. And if folks go online, they can take a look at this document brief. And what the governor was trying to do is illustrate all the things he would like the state to do around climate. And so a few things that he outlines are specifically decarbonizing the building sector, implementing the Climate Commitment Act, invest in more clean energy, clean transportation, and build clean energy future in Washington State. And so what's really, really, really exciting, on page 8, by the way, if you look at it, Mount Vernon Library Commons project is specifically listed. It is the only project listed in the governor's action plan, because I feel like our project is the only project underway and ready to go shovel ready to fulfill every single goal he outlines in the state. So we're incredibly grateful for the governor to recognize this project, which we knew he would eventually, but that it just means that we are now the example for the state on how to do what he's looking to do. And so he also requested $4 million to support the project for us, and to go toward the 75 EV charging stations. So what this means is also he's endorsed the project. So as we go for federal grant funding next year, I've already spoken to the office about would he write letters of support. So it would go a long way to have a governor write letters of support for our grants, going to the federal delegation. So it was just really exciting and honestly very unexpected news on Monday. I was excited he gave us money, but then to take it even further was very exciting. So we're thrilled for that. And then the next slide is, this is something council has seen before. It's really our thumbnails on how are we gonna get to that full funding amount. And the top portion is what, we're pretty sure that is okay. The check marks mean it is secured. But as you can kind of see down toward the middle, it says to date, we believe about 33.3 million is, fairly secured. But the total project cost, as Julie mentioned, we're sticking with that 46.3 number, and the need is still about 13 million. What's in yellow is what we're working on, so we believe that Skagit County Economic Grant would be eligible for us in 2022 and hoping for an allocation there. If the governor's proposed budget passes through the state legislature, that could be 4 million there. And then our congressionally directed spending from Congresswoman Del Bene is still in the bills in the federal government. It just needs to get passed. And so we have this potential to add 6.5 more million to that secured number. So kind of doing the quick math, we would be looking at some shortfalls still next year. And what we're really going to be working on is the federal opportunities. So if you go to the next slide. Now we're going to be lobbying the legislature for that capital allocation to stay in there, and that's where our supporters and our community can help us. We'll be putting out legislators that you can personally reach out to ask for their support, and so that'll be important work. There is federal transportation funding that will come to the state through formulaic grants, which what that means is once it comes in, it's parceled out by population, and then it's competitive grants for our region. And what's kind of cool about that is our region consists of Skagit County projects. There will be specific funding to go to EV projects in our Skagit County. It's called MPO, and we are the only project, even in design. So I'm intending that we should grab all of that money. And then, of course, philanthropy and gifts are important, but then also in-kind participation. There could be agreements with PUD could they install based on some things they owe us from a field that we're negotiating right now. So there's ways that we can start getting down into the details of adding where we could reduce costs there or reduce the amount of money we need to raise. And then next slide would be on January 26th, our first finance committee of next year. Doug is preparing like a complete financial briefing for all of you. So some of the decisions that would be coming up, it will be council's decision to take it further into bid. We're not locked into that. That will be a decision. And so Doug will have a whole outline of when decisions could be made, how the sequencing of different funding could work. We would be bonding because of the construction, and then all of that. So that will be coming up on January 26th, and that's where we start getting really detailed on how to make this go to bid. And then working in March and April, HKP finishes their work, produces bid documents. The state legislative session is complete. We'll know about that allocation. The U.S. Department of Transportation will be having their grant programming announced. Generally, they announce those programs that we can apply for, and then they award toward the end of the calendar year. So we'll be applying for everything possible that comes out from U.S. DOT. And then again, the Skagit County Economic Development Grant timeline is so that we apply during that particular time. So a lot more work that will be continuing because the goal is certainly to fund as much as possible with grant dollars to reduce any debt load for the city. And also to get to bidding and then breaking ground, maybe mid-year next year. So that's what we're working on. And then one further thing I wanted to let council know is I spoke to all but one of our 10th and our 40th legislators, asking them what they were working on, but then knowing this is a priority. And then we'll be reaching out to any other legislators that we've worked on other issues over the last 10 years. Senator Carlisle, or, you know, folks that could also then help advocate. Representative Schumacher has been helpful, so that's the work that we'll be doing going into session, is really ensuring we've got support all the way around. So, any questions about that? Okay, it is very exciting. So, okay.
Congratulations on the work that you've done in getting into governor's proposed budget. It's really exciting, and I've heard through the grapevine lots of other people are really excited. So clearly your enthusiasm and the good project is making a lot of progress. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. What's been really cool is reaching out for asking for just even support letters. It's quite a wide variety of organizations that are interested, and I think because this project touches on so many things that people want to see, right? Whether it's the passive house construction and all electric buildings, or it's the EV part of it, or the electric bike part of it, or then the very important, you know, community public education and library part of this, or community center. So I think it's got something for everybody to be excited about, which is awesome for all of us, right? So, and your support, we could have done it without all your support as well. So. Okay. Under for the good of the order, I had one thing I wanted to share, which is some more wonderful news. As you all know, tomorrow is the official groundbreaking for Martha's Place, which is the permanent supportive housing project. Catholic Housing and also Skagit County just worked together to make that go. However, the county just approved an $800,000 allocation of their ARPA funding to master lease hotel rooms, because what they would like to do is start like pre-filling the project so they can start serving those that could potentially be residents now. And they would do it through hotel, but also match that with a full-time caseworker that Catholic Housing would provide. So it's not just shelter, it's actually starting that work, that shelter and case management work. It was something that Sarah Hinman had proposed, and literally just yesterday, the commissioners approved that. And so we're incredibly grateful. It is very specific for our law enforcement community, and Erin, our social worker, to refer to. So it's really her ability. They're going to start with 20 rooms at this point, but they can expand with that ARPA funding. And so I wanted to commend Sarah and the county for really stepping up, because it's a pretty huge deal, and it's going to affect our community really in a positive way. So want to share that. So. Okay. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay. All right, with that, we've concluded our agenda items, and I'll ask our city attorney if we have a need for an executive session this evening.
There is, Madam Mayor. I'd ask the mayor and members of city council to enter into an executive session to discuss issues related to collective bargaining sessions and planning or adopting strategy or positions related to collective bargaining, which is exempt from the Open Public Meetings Act pursuant to RCW 423140 subsection 4, 20 minutes, no final action after.
All right, with that, we'll be adjourned at 8:20, and we'll go into an executive session. Thank you.